I've been streaming for a little while now, and I noticed that when I go to ad breaks, my Be Right Back screen is not exactly very exciting. So I decided I needed to change that. I wanted to give people something a little bit more interesting to look at while I'm just, going and getting a cup of tea or something. I saw other streamers were using clips of themselves and other highlights to showcase their work while they're away from stream. But I wanted to go one step further. I wanted to create a screen which would be dynamic and wouldn't give you the same clips every single time. I came up with this idea of like a dynamic B-roll screen, and in order to actually go and implement that, I was going to need to learn some tools. So if you want to learn how to play animations, if you want to learn how to create dynamic elements in OBS, if you want to form a foundational knowledge for whatever wizardry you're cooking up, then I'm the Extragalactic Unicorn. Let's get into it. So the first thing that I did was I concepted out how this was going to work. I came up with this idea of a phone screen of my Vtuber avatar showing off my audience clips of themselves on their phone, like TikTok or something like that. The next problem I had was actually a bit more of a content strategy problem. You see, when people go and stumble upon my stream, I want them to see the breadth of things that I actually create. So some of my content, like this, is horizontal in nature, but I also produce vertical clips as well. So I needed to create a screen which would be able to show both of those things. So I concepted out that this phone screen would be vertical in nature, but it would also flip to horizontal in nature when I wanted to play a specific clip. There was going to need to be a system in place which would decide which clip to play, and then it would orientate itself to show that clip correctly. The next thing I needed was a set of tools. I decided to settle on something called Lioronboard 2, Lioronboard 2. I don't really know how you're supposed to pronounce that, unfortunately. It will be linked in the description of this video if you want to download it and check it out. It is a free virtual stream deck program. The first thing I did was I just played around with this tool. There's a lot that you can do with this tool. It's effectively a command and response system. It listens to triggers from Twitch's API or OBS or whatever you set up for it, and then it will implement commands that you specify. You specify these commands in a visual scripting language, which is basically just a flow chart, as it were, of things that will happen when certain conditions are met. So here we are in Lioronboard 2. There's a couple of things you need to do in order to actually set it up and get it connected to things. If you want to connect this to your Twitch, for example, basically what you need to do is you need to go to your Twitch, find an authentication login link, and then paste it into the little box that comes up when you click Quick Twitch Connections into here. If you want to connect this up to OBS, it's a little bit more complicated. Basically, when you click on OBS connections, there's a whole box that comes up in here with what is an IP, a password, and a port. You can see I blocked all these out for the video. But basically, what you need to do is you need to go into OBS and you need to grab all these things, and then they can start talking to each other. And here we are in OBS. If you want to grab what the information that you need is, the IP, server port, server password, etc., all you need to do is you need to go to Tools, and you need to go to WebSocket Server Settings, and you'll see this helpful screen which has all of the information that you need. And here we go, we're back in Lioronboard 2 again, so presumably if you've set everything up, then everything should be talking to each other. Just to explain a little bit about this interface, effectively you have different decks. These are stream decks, basically. They're full of different buttons that you can push, and they do different things. If I just go into this deck 1 here, for example, you can see, again, this is basically all the different buttons or effects that I've got set up. If we go and create a new one, you can just right-click and then create a button, and that is effectively a new script that you can then start to work on. if we double click into it, then we can start to make our script. So if we wanted to, for example, get a command to OBS to switch the scene when this particular button fires, then we can do that. We can write in the scene name, and when the button is triggered, then this will do that effect. There's a couple of different things that as well you can do to properly control this scene, but we'll talk about that in a moment. If I just hit cancel there, just so I don't save that. For now, if I want to customize when this particular button triggers, all I have to do is I have to right click and I can do edit triggers. And this again comes into a very similar interface, which allows me to get this command to respond to a given trigger. So if I, for example, set it up on a hotkey, as you can see, there's all sorts of Twitch triggers as well. So if you wanted things to happen when there's a Twitch raid, or when you get bits, or when you have a new follower, you can customize like lots of Twitch integration here. It's cool, which is really, really cool. You can also go into here and you can sort of say, okay, I want stuff to happen when OBS does things, for example, when you move scenes or something like that, then you can do that too. But for now, I'll just set this up on a hotkey, and then I can just press any thing on my keyboard. So if I hit the P key, then this particular button will fire with whatever effect it's going to do that we set up. Now, this is all really cool for very simple effects, such as, making something pop up on screen when I get a Twitch follow. But I'm trying to do something a lot more complicated. I'm trying to do something where there's actual, state. I'm trying to make it so that I can play a random video rather than, just a preset video or something like that. I'm trying to make it so that there's decision making. There is, fortunately, tools built into Lioronboard 2 for flow control and the like that allow you to kind of create state and the like. It's not the cleanest implementation that I would like. I would probably describe it as fiddly more than anything, but it does work, and that's enough for me. There are 3 methods for controlling state within Lioronboard 2. So if I go into here and I type in set local variable, button variable, and global variable, those are all 3 of the methods for actually controlling state. You can also see there's stuff like string variables and object variables, but they basically just set some of these other kind of variable types. You can just use them as shorthand more than anything. You can also see, actually, there's a lovely search function for trying to find what you're trying to find. So invariably, rather than try and go through the menus, I tend to just use the search function. So let's cover global variables first. Effectively, when you have a global variable, this is supposed to be a variable which is kept on your whole board rather than just the actual button. You can type in the variable name. So let's just go for the old var1, which is extremely helpful variable name. And then you can write in whatever variable it is supposed to be saved to. You can choose your operator here. And then, so I can just set as a number, so like 1, for example. Whenever you're working with strings, instead of just writing out variable, whatever, instead of just writing the actual name of things, instead you have to put like the little quote marks around them so it knows it's a string, basically. Yeah, these I've had dubious results with. They seem to sometimes save and sometimes not save, so I would caution you against using them. But then again, if you can get them to work, then I will happily eat my words. I had very, very mixed results with them personally. If you want to try another method as well, which I've also had very dubious results with, is the set button variable. This is, I feel like, is an older implementation of something that they have implemented again. Effectively, what you have to do is you have to set the button ID. So, for example, this button ID, you can see his ID 4. So you can do ID 4 here. you can write out the variable name, so variable, and then you can make it equals a particular string, whatever, basically. This allows you, in theory, to control button variables from this particular button, and so, for example, if I had a button ID of ID3, you can see right now I'm in button ID 4. I could effectively set a variable in a different button from this button. I have tried this. It does work, sort of. Again, I have had mixed results with this, so I would probably instead encourage you to stick with the method which I have had the best results with, which is the set local variable method. Effectively, what this does is it is setting a variable within this particular button environment. You can see it is, I just say string, for example. And effectively, when this particular command block gets hit, it will create a variable name of var if it doesn't have one already, and then it will set it to this. If you want to see what variables your button actually has, you can go to the open variable window, and you can see all of the variables that all of the button IDs have, for example. So this is one from my actual implementation, which I'll show you in a bit. And you can see I'm using a couple of local variables here, and they're all colored differently depending on what kind of variable they are, basically. You can also export them as JSON if you wanted to, which is kind of cool. So I can control state. Sort of. However, I still needed to have proper flow control and proper decision making. But fortunately, in Lioronboard 2, these two things are actually pretty good to use. If you want to do simple flow control in Lioronboard 2, then fortunately, we have if statements. Whoa! It's even got a dedicated else block that comes with it. Love to see it. The problem with these, though, is that you do get this kind of like pyramid of doom situation going on if you start to do multiple if statements in a row. So if I sort of show you how I can have like if, for example, this, then if, for example, that, then if, for example, that, then all of a sudden we've got a lot of different branches here, and this could be quite hard to keep a track of. There is also switch statements in there as well. If you wanted to do a switch statement, you absolutely can do so, and then you can do case statements as well to maybe break up some of those little triangles. This is the bit where you can kind of see the slight disadvantage of having these kind of like flow control coding blocks, where you can kind of sort of roughly see where things are sort of like going when you have like one continuous branch of them. But when you start to have multiple different segmenting paths, then things can get very confusing very quickly. So keep an eye out for that if you are doing something very complicated. It certainly threw me for a spin a couple of times. The next problem I needed to solve was that I need this thing to play random clips. So I need some way of generating random numbers, and that's quite nice and easy. You can just type in random, and then you can get a random block. And that will basically allow you to type in a variable name, so random, and then you can set a minimum value and a maximum value, and that will basically save a random number between 0 and 50 to the variable called random. And then if you want to go and check that, for example, if I just do an if statement, for example, here, you can do if value random, and then that will get whatever value is in this particular variable name, and then you can set this to, I don't know, 32, for example. Then it will fall into this block if random is actually the number 32. So with all the practice of the tools now done, I just needed to get some art assets and start actually implementing the script. For that, I went and commissioned an artist called Cosme My Dear. You can go and find them over on VGen. I will leave a link down to their stuff below on the description. They're an amazing technical artist, and they did a wonderful job with some of the art assets that were created. One of the key things that was really helpful was the fact that they were able to communicate quite strongly with me about what was required. The art assets, after all, have a bunch of different transparencies and the like, different timings for all of the animations to get everything lined up correctly, and there were a couple of different products that needed to be created. It was a bit of an experimental gig for her as well, so big props to her for being brave enough to take on a gig which was a bit up in the arms with in terms of requirements. If you're looking for art assets for your project, go check her out. She's a great person to work with, comes highly recommended. After all was said and done, this is what it looks like. This is the actual finished version, which is currently running on my stream nowadays. As you can see, it will turn correctly to view a particular clip, and it will also play random clips of me doing whatever to entertain my audience. I think it came out really well, personally. I think it's amazing that Cosby managed to create something based on my really detailed technical drawings. But yeah, I think it came out really well. I'm really happy with how it looks and also the general quality of the piece. And here we go. This is the entire finished script, which is managing all of that stuff. So as you can see, it is quite long, but I will go through each bit individually, and I'll just sort of scroll through it. If you want to copy sections of it for your own project, you're more than welcome to do so. I don't really mind at all. It might not be the best code in the world, though, so I'll warn you there. So basically what we do at the start is we have to set this local variable up, which I call horizontal or vertical. It is literally just deciding whether we're going to be playing a horizontal or a vertical clip. And then we set up a bunch of these particular like sources. All of these are basically bits of the background of the of that screen. If I put up a quick picture of what that screen looks like, each of these bits are actually individual pieces or individual images within OBS. The whole background is not actually one contiguous image, as it sort of appears. And basically I do this because each time you sort of swipe across with that swipe effect, effectively all I'm doing is I'm using an animation to drag that media source behind that piece of the image, basically to hide it behind, kind of like curtains, basically, so that you kind of get that nice little swiping effect, which sort of looks like it's sort of swiping them away when actually it's just hiding it behind an image or whatever. I've got a repeat block here. Basically, all this means is that it will repeat this piece of code a number of times, which is specified. I kind of want it to just repeat all the time. So I've just got it to like 99999 or whatever. It probably should be higher, to be honest. And effectively, the trigger for this is when I switch scenes in OBS. So effectively, it's going to be going all the time, no matter what happens, basically. And that's kind of what I want it to be doing, because it doesn't really matter that it's changing and chopping things while I'm, streaming, basically, because when I switch to it, it'll be showing a different clip, and it doesn't matter at that point to me, So there we go. I'm then using another variable, which is play horizontal or vertical clip. This is basically the coin flip, which decides whether we are playing a horizontal or a vertical clip. If I go down to here, I will then check the if statement of play horizontal or vertical clip, and then which is basically saying, okay, I'm going to play a horizontal clip or a vertical clip, sorry. Oh, this is particularly a horizontal one. Then what we do is that I set it so that, okay, if we have been playing a horizontal clip and we are now going to be playing a vertical clip, because one is the vertical clip. My apologies, I get turned around with this from time to time, because there's a lot of code here. Then basically what we need to do is we need to transition from that horizontal state to a vertical state. And that is basically what this bit of the code is managing here. And all we're basically doing is we're setting different images or with different media sources in OBS to either visible or invisible. There is a little bit of a thing in OBS where it doesn't like you basically switching on lots of media sources all at once. So there can be a little bit of a screen flicker that happens. I encountered that quite early in this project. So to counteract that, when I put on something which needs to be sort of seen, and I instead switch it to divisible. And before I switch it to visible, I set the scale to like really, really small so that it turns on and then is really, really small, so that flicker moment that happens when it's really, really small and you don't see it. Then I have a very, very brief timeout of about 5 milliseconds, which you can't see. And then I will scale it back to 1 so that the flicker moment doesn't happen, basically. Whether this counteracts it enough, I don't know, but I've not seen it since I put in this little bit of code. So there we go. Either my eyes are being bad nowadays, or this works. So there you go. So next bit that we do is that we actually play the sort of switching animation. This is just a little delay for the switching animation, and then once the switching animation has finished, we set all of the background sources to be what it needs to be to play a normal clip, basically. Then we actually handle playing another clip. And if we do that, basically what we do is we have these things called starfield placeholders. You can sort of see when I was playing that initial clip, there's almost like a little like Duffy effect, basically, which sort of scrolls over to the next clip to make it look like you've just finished watching the next clip. There's like a placeholder thing there, and then you skirt it over. I initially wanted it to be an image of the clip that is actually going to be coming up, but that was, yeah, theoretically you could do that, but that was going to be a lot more work than was sort of worth it at this point. So I just kind of kept these little sort of unicorn things, basically, to as almost like a legacy here. Keeping going on then, effectively what we do is this is the actual animation of it moving over. You can see that there's a start position and an end position, and then the duration, and that's basically just how you do all animation in this. It's just motion source position for whatever your given source is, and that it just sort of happens. Then I put in like a little timeout for the duration, and then it sort of does its animation, and then we keep going in the script. And at that point, we decide what particular file we want to play. So I do my random generation here to get a random number, and that will decide which clip to play. At the moment, I've got 21 of these particular clips, and then what I basically just do is we set local file on the media source to whatever the path for my actual video is. I then set the position just to make sure that it's going to be in the correct position, and also the scale, because sometimes when I've gone and created clips, that I've gone and created them at different aspect ratios or from different sources and so they can be different scales, they can be different sizes, and I need to change the position for that. So that's basically what's going on there. As you can see, I've got a case for every single one of these. There's quite a few. If I can just go over here, it'll be a little bit faster to move this over. And the next bit that we do is that we set up the actual delay, basically. So we change all the sources around to make sure that it's, showing the correct thing, and then we have another timeout here, so we set the case statement here. I need to do this separately because I need to, basically, because I need to do a couple of things in between it then sort of pausing and it changing the thing. So I've got another big case switch statement here where we then have a wait for timeout for however long that clip is. So you can see 54 milliseconds or whatever is about 54 seconds of clip or whatever. And then it will just sort of wait out there. And the next bit is basically doing this again, but for vertical clips. So again, it's all the sort of same stuff. Basically, we're managing the transition stuff here. But for the slightly different, the slightly different animations where it's going back to playing a vertical clip or a horizontal clip or whatever, and then we actually handle playing the clip. And again, it's a very, very similar layout here. So, we set up the actual sort of placeholders here to sort of do the swiping animation. Then when we've done the swiping animation, we figure out, okay, we've got 11 clips here. Let's play one of these clips, and then we set up again what the clip to play based on the source position and also the source scale, basically. It's all that stuff again, and then we switch it around again, and we have to figure out how long we're sort of delaying for. So this is going to be 314 seconds, for example, so a couple of minutes clip or whatever, and then it will just wait doing that. And then once it's done that for 9999 times or whatever, I just have a little bit of a cleanup down here where I just set all the sort of sources that would otherwise be visible to invisible, so that when I change scene again, I can just start from fresh and there's not going to be any other little problems which linger on. And there you go. That's the entire script. And there you go. After fixing a couple of bugs, it was kind of working really well. So that is my little insight on how you can create dynamic elements, animations, and the like in OBS using Lioronboard 2. It's really nice to see that there are still tools out there which allow you to do some really cool things, which are also kind of free, to be honest. While searching for this project, I noticed there were quite a few paid sort of subscription deal sort of thing tools which will allow you to do very similar things but for a price. But this is all free, so there you go. If you needed help or wanted to ask a question, feel free to leave a question in the comments and I will happily check it out when I am able to. If you wanted a more in-depth video as well about this tool, or just trying to do some cool funky thing in OBS in general, I'd be happy to make another one of these kind of videos and investigate another project. I've got a couple of cool ideas of things I want to do for my own stream as well, which I want to show off and make another video about how I build them as well. So if you are interested, feel free to subscribe for more, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much. Cheerio.